What up? I'm going to be doing a Bard deep dive into our multiclassing, and I thought the best way to format this video would be to do it as a tier list. So this is a multiclassing guide in tier list form for the Bards. Now the assumption for this video is that we are mostly Bard, and we're going to be dipping into X, and that's how we'll base it off, and at the very end I'll do kind of a bonus round, but we'll get there when we get there. Now to explain my tier list, I'm doing an S, A, B, C, F rankings. The S tier is optimized builds, that you have potential for some incredibly optimized, it's about as efficient as you're gonna get builds. That's S tier. A tier is they have excellent synergy together. B tier is that they are solid but not crazy. C tier is they're bad, but you can do this one interesting thing. Next is F tier, which is little to zero synergy. So we're gonna begin with Artificer. So the Artificer gives us medium armor, shields, constitution saving throws. We get better cantrips, which is a really big deal. So we get a lot of what we're looking for as a Bard. We're looking for improved defenses and improved offensive. We get both of those here. However, this is a incredibly mad multi-class because we have to dip intelligence and charisma. Still gonna need constitution, and we're still gonna need dex on top of it as well. So our ability points get spread too thin. Not to mention that we have quite a bit of overlap with our spells list. We're both trying to be buffers, so we're not getting a lot out of their first level spells. In a lot of ways, this is what the fighter does for us, just more mad with a little bit of extra offense. Overall, I'm placing it in the C tier. Barbarian, one of the most iconic multi-classes because it's the Barbarian. You can run around as an orc with a piano on your back and try and hit people with it. It's a very big meme class. Now, how does it synergize? Well, unsurprisingly, Barbarians with their rage do not synergize very well with a full caster. You can't rage and you can't full cast at the same time, not to mention that we're going to be relying completely on Barbarian for our armor class because we're going to be strength based, we're not going to be dexterity based, so medium armor and light armor aren't going to do much for us. So that means we're going to have to go with the unarmored, and unarmored isn't going to be as strong because we have to go into charisma. So the anti-synergies are pretty big here, but we do get expertise on athletics as a Barbarian, so we can do some interesting, really niche grapple builds that I'm not saying are good, but they can be hilarious and unique. So C tier. Next up is the Cleric. The Cleric is going to be similar to the Artificer in that we're going to be really mad. We're going to get similar armors. We might get heavy armor, but we're probably going to want to be dex based anyway, so basically the similar armors as the Artificer. We get worse cantrips than the Artificer gives us. We have a similar issue with our spells being quite a bit of overlap, both being kind of supportive of our team. And so overall, it's pretty bad. It doesn't have a lot going for it. Now that being said, the unique thing about Cleric is we get our subclass at level 1. So while I am placing it in C tier in general, that for the most part it's pretty garbage, it would probably be F tier except for because you get that level 1 bonus from your subclass, you can actually create some pretty powerful builds by taking the broken subclasses. So you can go 2 levels in Twilight Cleric, and that build, despite having almost full anti-synergy just based off the pure strength of Twilight Cleric, that can get you to a B tier. So I would say overall, Clerics are in between F and C, but there are niche builds that can be bumped up to B, so I just kind of took the middle and went with C. And really, this is a big statement to how powerful Twilight Clerics are. There is no business for these two to work at all, yet its raw power makes it work. It's so good. Not in the good way. It's so good in the oh my goodness way. Next up, we have Druid. Druid has every problem that the Cleric has and none of the benefits. Multi-classing full casters is not good. We're just not allowing ourselves to get our higher level spells with very little benefit from multi-classing them. Our spell lists don't synergize all that fantastically, and we don't get that great of cantrips, and we don't get that great of defenses. This is an F tier for me. Next up is Fighter. Fighter gives us quite a bit at level 1. We get heavy armor, we get medium armor, we get shields, we get a fighting style, we get second wind. So we get a whole bunch of defensive boosts by taking Fighter, including constitution saving throws. I did miss that one. So we have all these defensive benefits, but we don't have any offensive benefits. So it is good, it's not great, B tier for me. Monk. Monk is wisdom and dexterity. We are charisma and probably dexterity, but this is just way too mad with literally no benefit. We don't get anything from this. F tier. Paladin. Okay, so Paladins, if we take 2 levels in Paladin and then we be one of the martial subclasses of Bard, we can create a better paladin than paladins are. We get everything paladins get, including smites, which we're better at because we have more spell slots. Multi-attack, we just get a couple levels later. But then we are on top of that a full caster who only lost 1 level in spell advancement because paladin is a half caster. So all the synergies come together, and we can even use our magical secrets to pick up those late level paladin spells before a paladin could. This is the paladin harder than paladins can build, and it's an S tier build, and we have an example build called the Greek Hero that you guys can go check out here if you haven't already seen it. Next up is Ranger. This is Monk, just a little bit better, but not that much better. Way too mad with very little benefit. We kind of get similar benefits to the Fighter, but just worse with worse ability scores. This is a hard pass, F tier. Rogue's pretty interesting because we both jump into expertise into skills. This is a very high skill-based multi-class, and if we go a second level in Rogue, which we probably should, we get cunning action because now we can stealth in combat as well as disengage. So we increase our defenses in kind of an alternative way. Instead of increasing our AC, we now just make ourselves unseen, which is one of the most slept on defensive abilities in the game. With a fight winning concentration spell going, we can be very powerful. The only problem is that we lose 2 levels in spell advancement, which is pretty rough, which keeps this from being S tier. It's an A tier for me. Sorcerer. A 1 level dip in Sorcerer gives us a ton as a Bard. We get improved cantrips, we get constitution saving throws, we get the shield spell, we get a level 1 feature which, depending on the subclass we take, can be fantastic. The Draconic Bloodline, for example, is going to give us a bonus to our AC and HP, so we can increase our defenses and our offenses at the exact same time without giving up any of our spell level progression. Besides, we're getting, 3rd level spells 1 level later, which is a worthy sacrifice for all the benefits we're getting. The Sorcerer 1 level dip is an S tier for me. Next up is the Warlock. The Warlock is going to give us Eldritch Blast, and if we go the 2nd level, we're going to get the Agonizing Blast Invocation, which allows us to essentially be an archer. It takes us from having really poor turn-by-turn combat capabilities to having really fantastic attacking capabilities without giving up much. Because once we take 2 levels in Warlock, we also get 2 first level spell slots that can be recharged on short rests, so we can have our first level spells go further. But it does nothing for our defenses. So it's the opposite of Fighter. Fighter is the one that does all of our defense. Warlock is the one that does all of our offense, but they don't overlap and help each other out with the other side of what Bard needs. So it ends up being a B tier for me, with an asterisk that if you take Hexblade, you get the shield spell, you get medium armor, you get shields. So you get all the defensive buffs you need, and it bumps you from being a B tier all the way up to an S tier. Hexblade's Hexblade. Next up is the Wizard. Now, the Wizard is the Sorcerer, but worse in every single way. We get fewer cantrips from basically the same list. We don't get a subclass feature right from the beginning. We don't get constitution saving throws. The only thing we get is more first level spells, but it's just not worth it because it's on top of all those other problems. It's just more mad than the Sorcerer is. So it just doesn't synergize at all. This ends up being an F tier for me. So there's our list. Overall, not bad, not exactly surprising either. It's about what I would have expected going into it. But here is the bonus ranking. So now, instead of doing the Bard is the one we go deep in, I'm going to do just ranking the Bard as a dip in general for all other classes. Now, Bards, I've talked about, struggle in the early levels. They don't have good defenses and they don't have good offense. What do we get for doing a dip into Bard? We get Jack of all trades, we get some bardic inspirations, but they don't recharge on a short rest if we're just dipping. And then we get our subclass feature and expertise at level 3. So we're really focused on skills and support, and there's very few builds that are going to want to invest 3 levels for a bit better spells, a bit better support. It's just not worth the investment. Bards get really good a bit later. They're not as front-loaded as many of the other powerhouse classes. They're still a powerhouse class, but they come in a bit later. Now, there are some niche builds that exist. I can see you being a rogue that wants to get more expertise and to get Jack of all trades and kind of be a skill monkey. There are builds out there that do this dip, but they're not common. So for me, the Bard dip is a C tier. Let me know what you would change, or let me know if I missed anything. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to learn something new. But other than that, I just hope you have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.